Hello everybody and welcome back to another Oscar prediction video where today I will be taking a look at the category of Best Adapted Screenplay. So this is another category, much like costume design yesterday, which the number one is very, very obvious. And honestly, the challenge I had with this video was figuring out what order to rank 2 through 5, because honestly, you could probably rank those 4 films in just about any order you wanted. And I'm definitely going to get some pushback based on the order that I put them in, but all I can say is all 4 of these films are going to get votes. And this is not the order that I would certainly put them in, not by a long shot, but don't read too much into the order of these screenplays. For being a top 8 category, an above-the-line category, there is not a whole lot of suspense going into it, so let's not waste any more time. 5th most likely to win is Nickel Boys, screenplay by Ramel Ross and Jocelyn Barnes, based on the novel The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. So I already did a whole video on the book way back at the beginning of the year. This year, I tried something a little bit different in that I was actually going to read books that were getting notable adaptations this year. So I've read this book and one other book that we'll get to later. And I'm on the record of saying the book Nickel Boys is very, very good. I don't talk a whole lot about my personal opinions on the movies, although I might make a video later on ranking all the Oscar-nominated movies. But the movie at Nickel Boys, in my personal opinion, was a little bit disappointing. I feel like the whole first-person angle didn't fully resonate with me, and on top of that, I had issues. The movie was rated PG-13, and I thought felt a little bit more sanitized than the book did, and I didn't really feel the feeling of oppression. But with all of that said, I do understand why this is nominated. I do think that the movie is clearly very, very well respected. It got the Best Picture nomination, surprisingly. I don't know how it got in there but missed cinematography. But clearly the movie does have a lot of strong support, and this nomination for screenplay is a good show of support alongside it. And it is pretty interesting to take a book that could have been played straight, you could have done exactly what the book did, and it would have worked fine, but they chose to take it in a little bit of a different direction. And most of the time, I really, really admire when a movie takes a big swing in the adaptation. I haven't really talked about this on the channel, but Queer was an example where I did not like the book, and I actually really liked the movie because it went in a different direction. But this personally was not the case. I think Nickel Boys maybe would have found more Oscar success if it had stuck to the book a little bit more closely, but the big swing was clearly a lot for certain voters. And the thing is, I really can't see it pulling off a win in this category, because if this movie was nominated for cinematography, then maybe they would go out of their way to vote for it. But screenplay, I don't know how many people are going to watch this movie and think that the screenplay is the defining factor. I think people might like the screenplay, but compared to some of the other nominees, I don't know if the screenplay does enough other than coming up with the idea of the first-person motif. I don't know how many voters are going to go out of their way to vote for this in screenplay. It doesn't have that many critics wins, and so I am going to rank this 5th most likely. Although, again, the numbering of 5 through 2 are up in the air. 4th most likely to win is Sing Sing. Now, if I had a ballot, this would be my pick to win, personally. Screenplay written by Greg Quidar, Clint Bentley, Clarence Macklin, and John Devine G. Whitfield. So Clarence Macklin is technically nominated for an Oscar this year, although not in supporting actor as he should have been. This screenplay is really, really tight, really well written, and it really captures the feeling of everything that these men went through in this prison program, and very, very good movie that, in all honesty, should have been up for Best Picture. I think a lot of people have expressed similar sentiment. The reason why it's not winning is because this is the only movie in this lineup that was not up for Best Picture. And we have not seen, the last time a movie won screenplay without being nominated for picture was Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind back in 2004. So it was a long time ago, and it was before we had the expanded Best Picture lineup. If this were a field of 10, Eternal Sunshine probably would have gotten in. So for that reason, I never predict a movie to win screenplay if it doesn't have the picture nomination. And it's a real shame because this is such a deserving screenplay. It is the most deserving screenplay here, in my opinion. And I would have loved to have ranked it number 2, but realistically, I don't think it ranks above number 4 for the simple reason that it's not in picture. Now, I do think that maybe more people are going out of their way to see it after the Oscar nominations, and I think that might potentially give it a leg up in original song of all categories, but I really don't think screenplay is happening. Third most likely to win is Emilia Perez. So screenplay by Jacques Audiard in collaboration with Thomas Bidjian, Liam Neeson, and Nicolas Livecchi, based on the opera by Jacques Audiard and the novel Écoute by Boris Rezan. Oh boy, this screenplay is the weakest one nominated out of all the 10, by a mile. Usually when I select the image to show for the screenplay, I try to select a really good moment in the script, but I legitimately couldn't find one, so I chose this moment because I think it's a perfect encapsulation of why the movie doesn't work. And I feel like this either should be number 5 or it should be number 2. I almost put it number 2 back when it momentarily looked like Emilia Perez could do really, really well at the Oscars. 13 nominations is clearly a lot. And this is going to get votes simply because not every Oscar voter is going to care about the controversies. Some are still going to want to vote for it. But I do think more and more, as more stuff comes out about this movie, then Oscar voters are starting to realize what an embarrassment it was to nominate this movie for 13 Oscars. And this is a particular category that it was not the frontrunner to win before the controversy happened, and now I think it's definitely not going to happen, though it could still get a handful of votes by some people who just don't care about the controversy. Second most likely to win is A Complete Unknown. Screenplay by James Mangold and Jay Cox, based on the book Dylan Goes Electric by Elijah Wald. So I originally was going to put this one at number 5. It goes to show how in flux these bottom 4 are. I do think this one might get a little higher than we think. I think this one might get more votes than we initially were predicting because of the simple fact that this movie is so beloved. 8 nominations is a lot for a musical biopic, and Oscar voters just really, really, really respond to Bob Dylan and respond to this portrayal of his life. Now, with that being said, I don't see it going all the way in the end. It doesn't have a ton of precursors support for screenplay. It's got the nominations, but in terms of the wins, well, technically speaking, nothing has the precursor support other than one movie, which I'll get to in a second. Some people do like the fact that this is a little bit different than your typical music biopic. It doesn't go through the typical beats. It focuses on a very specific period of his life. And some have really responded to that. But even then, I don't think this is one of the top writing achievements of the year. I think it's a solid writing achievement. I think it's a solid movie. But I just don't see them going out of their way for it. But I do think this could place higher on people's ballots than a lot of pundits are willing to predict. However, the movie that I am fairly certain is going to win original screenplay, that would be Conclave. Screenplay by Peter Strawn, based on a novel by Robert Harris. So on top of the movie being really, really well-liked across the board and up for picture and potentially a contender to win picture, I think what this movie really has going for it is the writing and specifically the use of dialogue. This is a very dialogue-heavy movie, which is exactly what they look for in Best Screenplay, and the dialogue is all referring to the characters and the everything going on with the twists and turns and the scandals that everyone has. It's an intellectual movie. At least it wants you to believe it's an intellectual movie, but it's very easy to digest. And I think this is the exact sort of thing that voters eat up. Now, what I will say, even though the dialogue even though the dialogue is the aspect of the movie that is the most praised, as someone who's read the book, not only do I think the book is a little bit better, but most of the dialogue in this movie is copied verbatim from the book. So there is a question of how much work did you really do there? But I don't think too many people are going to complain about that. I don't know how many voters have even read the book, and if those who have, sometimes I appreciate a big swing in the adaptation, but other times doing the book exactly is the correct way to do it. And I do think Conclave, this screenplay has gotten a lot of credit for doing what it does. And even though not a lot is changed in the translation works. And this is a screenplay that a lot of voters can really, really get behind. It's won the Golden Globe over the original contenders, and even though as of this recording we haven't had Critics' Choice, I think it's going to win that too. I think it's going to win Scripter. It just feels like it's going to take home all the precursors. So, no suspense. I do believe Conclave is winning this Oscar. Thank you very much for watching, and tune in next time when I will be taking a look at the category of Best Makeup and Hairstyling. See you then.